Hello and welcome to the Preferred Contractors podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Harrison, where we give you actionable steps here to grow your contracting business. So today we are super pumped to have Jonathan Gehrig. I said it right, Gehrig.
Correct.
Yeah, I didn't mess it up. Jonathan Gehrig, he's the head honcho over at Armor Up Consulting. So they're a growth consulting and business management firm, really help fill in the gaps and grow your business. So we're going to talk about that today. We're also going to get into his new book he's got coming out, Unlimited Leads and Unlimited Leads, Unstoppable Sales Engine, and which we'll get into kind of a deep dive here on the podcast. So Jonathan, man, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jordan. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so I was super excited about this one because I know you work closely with the team at Kyber, and so like what you have done so far, inside our own business as well, has been amazing. So being able to share what you got is it's going to be fun. So first, let's just get into talk about your journey for a moment. What led you to start Armor Up Consulting?
Yeah, great question. So I in 2005 I started coaching people in sales. Right. So I recognized a huge need for people to learn better systems and processes in their sales journey, being a salesperson. And then from there, it just went up. Then I started working with sales managers. Then I started working with their boss. And then I started working with their boss's boss. And eventually it just turned into, back in 2017, I decided to launch a full scale consulting firm where I could work directly with the whole business and help people put the systems and processes in place to help them actually scale their business instead of just grow their business.
Yeah. So when you say scale and grow, help some people out here. What do you mean the difference between the two of those?
Now, so oftentimes when people are growing their business, as they grow, the expenses grow as well. So the difference is when you scale a business, you actually are able to increase the net profit while you're growing. So that's the difference.
So that kind of leads us into kind of the next thing because in the business world, you do have people who are just starting out, or those who are hesitant to hire on a consultant. Right? They think they just they figure they know better on their own business. So we want to kind of break those barriers, those limiting beliefs on like what kind of impact like hiring somebody you would have. So what are the common myths about like a growth consultant that you want to kind of debunk early on here?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is that you can't afford it, right? That would be the first common myth. It's common for a reason though, because most growth consulting companies out there, most business management firms that do consulting, they are very expensive. Hiring a consulting firm can cost you multiple six figures and even multiple seven figures, depending on who you go after to hire. And so back to that journey, I recognized a need for there to be a affordable solution where one, we make money, my team and I were paid properly for our time and our efforts and our IP, but the business also has the ability and the capacity to actually pay for consulting. So that's the number one thing is that I can't afford it, but you don't know until you have the conversation, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times too, what is it? You can't, for some people who are in that position, like maybe not first starting out, but when they're like ready to start growing and scaling, someone think they don't need it. And the fact that so to me, a lot of times you can't afford not to do it. And get that help with somebody who's been there. And that's a hard limiting belief to get people over. But I know once they dive into that stuff, they don't regret it. Right. So besides all that, let's get into the fun stuff here because, like I said, we like to give actual steps, how you're going to grow, how to increase your lead flow, close more sales, all that kind of stuff, things that contractors really need and want. So let's get into your book for a moment. Unlimited Leads, Unstoppable Sales Engine. So what did you feel led you to write this book? Like, who is it for? And what did you want people to learn from this book?
Yeah, great question. 90% of the businesses that we work with, the first thing they want help with is more leads and more sales, whether it be done for you leads and sales, or we just want to know what we need to do in order to increase our leads. Right. And so you go out into the great world of the World Wide Web, www.search the term, how do I get more leads and sales? And you're going to come up with people who do SEO and people who do email marketing and people who do LinkedIn lead generation, Facebook lead generation, Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, right? You have all these options that pop up, and they're not in one centralized place. They're all over the place. And then when you make these calls and you talk to the first person and they say, yeah, in order for us to run your ads on Facebook, you're going to pay us $2,500 a month before you make a dime. Plus we need you to have X amount, thousands of dollars per month of ad spend. And then we're going to test the world of ads with your money. So what we believe in is that a business is not ready to run ads or leads until they actually have a clearly identified message, right? That's the first thing. What is your dominating position in your industry? And most contractors, most business owners will say, well, I don't really have a dominating, I don't really have a thing that sets me apart clearly from everybody else. We do the same thing, but it's actually not, that's untrue. Every person, every business owner their business has something that sets them apart. And so that's the first thing that we work on with people is let's get a message that sets you apart. Then let's make sure that your offer is compelling. Then let's go to the market organically. Right. So that's the biggest thing that we start with.
Yeah. And it's funny, people don't, I watched a content video the other day where people will get told how you can generate leads organically and all that. It's that 1% that'll go out and do it. It's the rest of them that won't put the effort into it because it works, right? Organic works. And sometimes it's the best way to do it. That's how you build, that's how you build your audience. You use the paid advertising to scale it and grow it a lot faster. So no, I wish more people would put the time and effort into it, but because it's not a quick turnaround, right? I agree there. So since we're talking about lead gen, obviously for most people, that's the biggest thing. I need leads coming in. Contractors usually have to start word of mouth. You usually have to, depend on referrals, like most businesses. So I feel like the ones that do well, okay, are the ones that can communicate, right? So some people are like, it's easy. You gotta, you do good jobs, you do good work, and you can bring in business, right? I hear that a lot, but the problem is those people do really well with communication, and others maybe not so much. So what I want to ask and kind of get into is, so how important is communication? So when you're building a referral network, and kind of what are the biggest mistakes you see when it does come to communicating the contractors are making when they're trying to build out that referral network?
Yeah, great question. With referrals, and I'll tell everybody who's listening to this that if you are getting referrals and the chances of you asking for referrals the right way, communicating properly on how to get referrals, and people are just, let's say, sending you referrals because you helped fix my aunt's roof. Let me make a call. She trusted you. It worked out. Now let me call you. Or you fixed the plumbing in my brother's house. Now I'm going to trust you, right? So that word of mouth can kind of spiral from there. That's phenomenal. Which if you're getting business that way, that means that the path for you 10xing your revenue and your profit and those referrals is super simple. It's all about intentionality. And so back to what you said, the communication, like how important is communication? It's very important. Most people do not communicate the referral ask properly because they have some form of a limiting belief. Well, this person may not know anybody. They decide for everybody else that they don't have referrals, or even if they do ask, hey, do you know anybody else that has a need for X? The way that they're asking is not the way that our brains process a referral. Because if you just helped me fix my house and I just paid you and I shook your hand and said you did a great job, and you come back and say, hey, do you know anybody that has a need? Which most people don't even say. What do most people say? Hey, if you know anybody else that needs some help, here's my card. Good luck. Good luck getting referrals that way. You might get onesie twosies here and there, but again, if you are getting referrals, the path for you 10xing your business is actually a simple one. It's about that intentionality. So I teach business owners that if you're the owner and you're talking to that consumer, communicate clearly through this process. If I was talking to you, Jordan, I would say, Jordan, it has been great working with you. Thank you for just paying me. I appreciate you. I wish I had 10 more people to work with every single day, just like you. Based on who you are and who you know, who do you know that I could just have a conversation with about helping them with these things? And then I stop talking and I let there be silence, because their mind is now thinking of what? Based on who you are and who you know, who do you know? So the mind is saying, okay, in order for me to get out of this task, I need to come up with some names. This one thing has, since 2005, has led to multiple seven figures of business through referrals. I get referrals. I am a master at getting referrals, right? And so I will teach a business owner that. And here's what I'll say: 90% of the business owners I work with, they don't properly communicate it still, but they still get more referrals. Why? Because of intentionality. If we just know top of mind, if I'm a shy person, I'm an introvert myself. I'm a shy person by nature. However, I knew that I'd prefer to work smart and not hard. And so if you can identify the type of communication that works for you, hey, based on who you are and who you know, it's a very simple script, right? It's a very simple script. Now you're going to get intentional referrals. Your people are going to give you names more than you've ever had before. And the only thing that'll slow it down is you opening your mouth. So they give you a name. Jordan says, well, my Aunt Sally, who lives in Antarctica. And most business owners say, well, I can't help that person. No, don't stop their mind from thinking of names, saying, okay, great, Aunt Sally. Who else? And who else? And who else? And I'd continue doing it that way. And in my personality, I'm not pushy. This is the least pushy way to ask for referrals. And so that communication is very important. There was a psychology journal that wrote there was a psychology journal, but I don't know, sometime in the 2000s, that wrote an article about how scripting is the highest form of communication because you can be free to listen. So what does that tell us? That some people say, well, I don't want to have a script. Well, don't just have a script until it becomes the words that you use. And that's how we will astronomically increase a business in the first 90 days of working with us. Is we'll start with referrals, we'll get the whole company on board with it, and they'll grow.
Well, and it's funny you say that with the scripting. Like, the scripting is fantastic to start, but once you get, it also allows you to kind of tweak things too. It's like, hey, I keep saying this over and over again, but it doesn't give me the right results. So let me change how I say this. Like, if I'm in my customer's shoes, like if I say it differently, right? If I say, maybe I add how I say it or the inflection in which I say it, right? That could change drastically in conversions on referrals, right? They'll give you more. And I agree with you. Like, that scripting in the beginning is crucial. And then as you're comfortable, you grow, you get better at it. Then you tweak it, right? Because to me, and this is my thinking, in business, like, you can always tweak and make something better. That's going to increase your conversions or get you more referrals or whatever it may be. So no, I agree, and that's great advice, especially on the communication side. And we know in the contracting space, and I live in Alabama, there are people that don't know how to talk to people, and they sound country like me. And so it's real hard to enunciate and have that confidence to speak that way. So no, that's fantastic. So let's get into some more of the lead gen stuff. So what are some unconventional ways that some people don't think about that contractors can market their business to generate leads that maybe their competitors aren't doing?
Yeah. So the next step after referrals is to utilize your circle of influence. Who do you know? Who do they know? And utilizing your circle of influence is absolutely a practice of building relationships. There's 3 phenomenal books that, if it's all right, I'll give some recommendations to books that can absolutely help you identify the system that works for you. It's 7 Levels of Communication, The Referral of a Lifetime, and The Go Giver. Right. So those 3 books are heavily designed to help you build relationships with your circle of influence and build joint ventures, partnerships, and just utilize your circle of influence to actually find those people. And how do people traditionally do it today? They typically will join the Chamber of Commerce. They'll join a BNI meeting. They'll join some type of networking group, and then everybody knows that person as the guy in that industry, right? Because they usually only allow one from each industry. So it's no different than what they preach, but now instead of having to pay to go do it, you're just doing it intentionally yourself. So you're going out into the community. If you're a contractor and you don't know most of the business owners in your city, right? And you might be in a big city, so that might be impossible. You should know those business owners. You should walk into those businesses and shake hands with them. Why? Because they know people in the community. So that's a very unconventional, no spend outside of a little bit of gas, a little bit of money to go in and shake hands with the community and get to know them. So that way you can do what? Build a relationship with them, consider them a circle of influence, and have conversations with them. Hey, Jordan, it's been great having a conversation with you today. I wish I had 10 more people just like you to meet with. And it's the same process.
And it's funny you say that. I had a guy on the show, Dave Taggart. He just started his roofing company, A5 Roofing, and he talked about their biggest thing is they build relationships, right? They don't build roofs, they build relationships. And one of the things we talked about on that episode was he does a fantastic job of building relationships just within the roofing industry and providing like a ton of value. And he gets jobs sent to him all the time, people that are out of state. They're like, hey, I know Dave who's over in Dallas or Fort Worth or whatever, and he can handle your roof problem, right? So he gets referrals from his industry members just because he provides value in the industry. So I agree. And once again, that just has to come with the effort, right? You got to have the effort to want to put in, provide value to the industry, and actually create and shake those hands. And just the hard part is people just don't want to put it in that effort. So, but no, I agree. And the actually connecting business owners with the community, didn't think of it that way in terms of like shaking those hands. Some people think, well, it's a waste of time, but but if you're supporting the community and you're actually making those connections, business owners see people way more than you do. So no, that's awesome. No, I love it. So let's get into, once we've got kind of a steady flow of leads. Okay. We've got some referrals coming in. It's time to close some deals, right? And this is where a lot of people, once again, the generating leads is difficult. Closing sales can go right with it. So what do contractors need to do to kind of establish a sales process, right, to become the sales engine you talk about in your book?
Yeah. So the first thing is identifying what the buyer's journey is, right? How does someone come from being a prospect to actually saying, I'm in, and signing your contract? Once you've identified the buyer's journey, then you need to identify the client journey. What's our process? And it should be written down on paper or on a document somewhere as your company's signature solution or process. And so if you have ABC Roofing, when we have someone interested, this is the process we take them through to help them become a client. Once they become a client, now what's the process that we use with them? What are the emails they're going to get? What type of communication they're going to get with us? Are they going to get white glove service? Are we just going to sign them up, fix their roof, and then that's it? What's the process for the client? Are they going to be told the process that you're going to go through to help fix whatever it is that you're fixing for them? So having that clearly identified is the number one thing you need to start with in your sales engine is what's the client journey, what's the buyer's journey, and then what's the client journey. So that buyer's journey, if that's not clearly identified, well, then you're definitely missing out on sales.
But it's funny you say that, because I'm literally in our Facebook group, in our community group, I'm literally building out guides right now that talk about the buyer's journey and client's journey and how you build it out from beginning to end. So like literally, this will be a great podcast to throw in and references. We are in that process of showing them how to do it, because some people just don't think about it. They don't think about like how to how are they even being contacted, right? They don't realize that most people are sending, you can send messages through Google My Business now, you can send messages through Facebook and all that stuff. Well, how can you take that and put it into one software? You can answer it all in one place. Like there's just so many things that they're not thinking about, the ways to be contacted. And then what's that process look like? Some think, well, I just need to show up and do an estimate, right? You just show up, do an estimate, and I tell them what the price is, and that's it. And I'm glad you mentioned that, especially with those two things. And they're huge. And also correct me if I'm wrong, or you disagree, but like, doesn't that give you an opportunity to kind of determine, when you have the buyer's journey and client's journey, how you differentiate? I can't say the word, can I? How you set yourself apart from the market?
100%. So I worked with a roofing company in a very competitive roofing market in the United States. I've got NDAs, so I'm not going to disclose who it is, but this guy had zero business experience, and he went from $0 to $1 million in revenue in 5 months. Then he did 1.25 million the first quarter of 2020. And that's because we helped him identify these things before he went into his journey.
Yeah. And that's, once again, just one of those things that people won't take the deep dive into. And well, and they may not know how, right? I guess that's another aspect of it. And that's something that we are trying to teach as well in our group. So let's transition a little bit. Reading my notes here. So let's get into once a company should get to the point where they need outside help, right? So this could be marketing, sales, business development, and kind of putting all of these pieces together, because it's hard to as a business owner when you may still be doing work, and then you need to put all this together to get it to have like one message, one real offer, one all one brand coming out into the market. So this kind of give you an opportunity as well to go over what you go with your clients. So what should business owners mindset be? Okay. Because a lot of people don't talk about that. What should business owners mindset be when they're ready to hire a growth or business consultant?
Yeah, really, really great question. And I'll start it with this statement: that is, if you started and you started your business, or you're currently building your business in survival mode, and you're working 15, 16, 17, 18-hour days, you should have done this years ago, days ago, whenever you started. So the time to start is, there's one indicator when you can afford it. Right? It doesn't cost anything to talk to a consulting firm, to ask them questions and see where they're at, so you can plan. Because a lot of businesses do start in survival mode. They go out there, they're trying to make some sales, bring some revenue in, pay their team, all that stuff. That's fine. But if you do not have a plan for when are we going to bring in some outside help, and that might be in the form of hiring a really good COO. So I'll make that clear. If you've got a great COO who knows what they're doing, a great HR person, a great sales manager, all that stuff. But most businesses, they don't have the ability or the capacity to bring on the liability of an employee at that stature, right? Hiring a COO, putting them on W-2s, that's a big responsibility. You got taxes to pay on it, all this stuff. So hiring an outside consulting firm that can step in and do those things that provide the same function, possibly better, you should do it yesterday.
Yeah,
when you have the capacity to.
Right. So how do you get to that? I guess, like, what would be an idea to, because I know, I'll say this, I'm assuming you'll get on calls with business owners and they're not quite there yet. So what are things you tell them that they need to do to plan so they can get to that point?
So I can't speak for other consulting firms, but I'll share what our process is. We start with a 15-minute introduction call to get to know people. That's that doesn't cost anything. Tell me about where you're at. Tell me about your business. How long have you been in business? Right? We ask these questions. And then if it makes sense, not financially, just if it makes sense, we will do a consultation that's complimentary for an hour. And that's where we'll provide them some steps of what they need to do to be in a position to afford consulting, whether it's with us or someone else. Our consultation, and again, I can't speak for other consulting firms, but our consultation is complimentary, and it's not a sales pitch. We actually do an analysis, a basic valuation of the business, and then we come up with a report on that call and help them with identifying the lowest hanging fruits to help them do what? Make enough money to afford consulting.
Right. And I think, yeah, that's fantastic. And it's a great, not only is it a great model for you guys, once again, that'll show some of these contractors that maybe they don't work with you, but maybe they refer somebody to you that can afford you, right? Because you took the time to provide the value up front, to go, here's the process and the steps. Don't have to work with us, right? But if you decide to, this is how you're going to get there. And they may go, hey, I talked with Jonathan. They were fantastic. You're in a good position to afford this. You should give them a call. Once again, goes back to the buyer's journey side, right? And goes back to your process and helping others and providing value first. So love it, man. So let's wrap things up here. I know we're getting close to the 30-minute mark. So what moving forward for contractors? That's mostly the audience we deal with, and I know you've worked with a lot. So what are kind of the biggest roadblocks contractors are facing now when they're ready to try to grow and scale?
So the first thing is just having a plan, right? So planning out what you're actually trying to accomplish rather than being in survival mode. And oftentimes what happens is they get in survival mode just out of necessity, even if that means an influx of business, right? Hey, now we sold more houses this week than I have ever had before. So now I'm working 18-hour days. What's the plan once that slows down? What's the plan for implementing systems and processes into your business so you can actually stop being an employee and you can be a business owner? That's the first thing.
Yeah, I call it the doing the non-sexy stuff to make your business sexy. I'm going to coin that phrase because I hadn't heard anybody say it. I'm like, because we talk about it a lot, because everybody's like, I want leads, I need sales, whatever. But like, it's those little things inside your business that's like, oh man, this sucks. But that's what gets it to operate. That gives us the machine to get it rolling, man. So, Well, look, Jonathan, I mean, I can't thank you enough for taking some time, dropping some just major value to these guys. I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about Armor Up. So if someone wants to work with Armor Up Consulting, work with you and your team, what can they expect? Which I know you talked about a little bit, and then how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, fantastic. So what first of all, I'll say you can go directly to our website. It's armorup.io, armorup.io. Feel free to peruse and see all of the massive value that we actually provide on our website through blogging, through some free webinars and things like that. The process that we take, so our buyer's journey is we start with an introduction call that's 15 minutes. So I call it the non-invasive introduction call. We're not trying to sell you anything, just to get to know each other. And then if it makes sense for both parties to really take it to the next step, we offer a 1-hour consultation. You can leave your credit card at home. That consultation is meant to identify, does it make sense to start that relationship? And our first month relationship is all we offer. We offer a 1-month relationship on that call if it makes sense. And that first 30 days, we then identify every area of the business that needs help. And we come up with a full, very, very extensive report that goes out 18 to 60 months. We put a lot of work into it. It's very customized for their business. So that's our initial process. And the way you can get in touch with me is you can shoot me an email, Jonathan@armorup.io. It's JONATHAN @ARMORUP.io. You can also feel free to give me a jingle and call me on my cell phone, 561-531-4797. Text message works great. I do get a lot of phone calls, but feel free to call and leave a voicemail, and I will get back to you.
Yeah, awesome. And of course, you can always reach out to me if you're in the Facebook group. I can get you connected up. Either way, be glad to connect you up with Jonathan. And when does your book come out? Like, and how can somebody get a copy of that?
We're looking at a launch date of end of March.
Ooh, that's coming up quick. So
Yes.
let me know too, because I want a copy because I'm going to read it. Although I'm the content guy, but that's great content I can put out there for the rest of the world. So, well, look,
Absolutely.
Jonathan, I appreciate it again, man. Thanks again for taking time. I know you're super busy, and sharing a lot of golden nuggets for the community. And like I said, hopefully maybe we'll have you on again soon. We'll dive in further once your book's launched and you got some feedback, and we'll go from there, man. So thank you again. I appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody for listening to Preferred Contractors Podcast. If you haven't already hopped into our Preferred Contractors Facebook group, search Preferred Contractors Group, and it should be the very top option when you search. So until next time, thanks again.